Travis Wingoodsell, Friday night. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints came out with Saints Volume 3, Boldly, Nobly, and Independent, 1893 to 1955. And as much as I know about real church history, I still did a copy and paste to a Word program that's available for free on their website. It's in the church news telling us about it. The problem is blatantly obvious. The church has come out and confessed they only want to discuss faith-promoting things. They don't want to talk about the bad stuff. And so Brigham Young, being a racist, sexist, bigot, neglectful of the poor, and criminal, they don't want to talk about any of that. They don't want to talk about the United States shutting down the church. They don't want to talk about how the United States took away Brigham Young's kingdom of Deseret and turned it into the territory of Utah, allowing Brigham Young to be a governor, but they don't explain to us why Brigham Young ceased to be governor. They don't talk about any of his talks that deal with him complaining about the government and wanting to violate the laws to practice polygamy. They don't want to talk about Joseph Smith's 19 July 1840, where Joseph Smith says that Brigham Young is Judas and will be the means of murdering him. The church doesn't want to talk about those things. They don't want to talk about 17 March 1842, where women get the priesthood and priesthood office, because that's not faith promoting, right, women? They don't want to talk about these things because Brigham Young is not faith promoting. This whole church is not faith promoting. And so they don't want to talk about it. They only want to talk about faith promoting stuff. And so they say Brigham Young is the true successor. That's faith promoting. Then John Taylor, faith promoting. And Wilford Woodruff, faith promoting. And they don't want to tell us that the United States shut them down, so that President Woodruff did not exist. He self-proclaimed himself the president. He's not allowed to be president. It's illegal for him to be president. And yet, official declaration, President Wilford Woodruff. They just will not tell us the truth because it's not faith promoting. And so yes, Saints is no different. They don't talk about what was going on. Let me go over the chapter titles for you. Part 1 is called A Firm Basis. There are 4 parts. So chapter 1, A Brighter and a Better Day. Oh? What happened previously that was not brighter and better? So they purposely use emotional wording to trigger people's emotional responses for mental manipulation. Manipulation of your emotions. This is what brainwashers do. This all comes from psychology. Psychology is a fake science. They don't use science. They just know how to manipulate people who are stupid. Literally. They exploit people. Make them stupid. It's called gaslighting, for example. Comes from the movie, the black and white movie in the early 1900s. You only tell people what you want them to believe in, what you want them to do. That's what all this fortune telling stuff is all about. the person gets your money and then tells you what they want you to do, but most of the time they'll try to get an idea of what you want to hear so that you'll keep coming back and giving them more money. That's faith promoting. Chapter 2, as we prove ourselves ready. Chapter 3, the path of right. Chapter 4, a great amount of good. I thought you had better. Now it's just great. Chapter 5, an essential preparation. Chapter 6, our wish, our mission. Chapter 7, on trial. You might think, oh, they're going to court? Not quite. It's a positive, happy feeling stuff in there. I didn't read through the whole thing, obviously, but it wasn't talking about a trial. It was Lorenzo Snow. Chapter 8, the Rock of Revelation. Chapter 9, struggle and fight. And you may think, fighting, it's got violence. No, it's more like struggling in the spirit. Fighting temptation. That type of crap. And so part 2, in the Middle Earth. Tolkien. In the midst of the earth. Middle Earth. Chapter 10, give me strength. Chapter 11, too heavy. So they're talking about war here. We're entering into World War I. And so Mormons are getting hanged. So we're just like blacks. That's exactly what a white supremacist would say. But all of these bad stuff, it's all in Europe. No, Salt Lake Valley, all is well in Zion. That I did catch. Because they start talking, over in Belgium and Europe. And so chapter 12, this terrible war, we need to be at peace in Zion. Zion is peace, safety, and refuge. They don't talk about any of the bad stuff. The news just came out earlier this year, talking about the selling of homes only to white people. I can't remember the naming of it, but you had to have white neighborhoods, and nobody wants to talk about, because it's not faith promoting, that it came from Brigham Young's racism. Everybody knows this. It's not a sacred secret. But yet the news, what's her name? She's interviewing Mike Lee about his emails to overthrow America, like his ancestor, who murdered women and children in the Mountain Meadows Massacre, who was a Danite who overthrew Joseph Smith's church under Brigham Young. And she throws him softballs. She's not interviewing him. She's letting him say, no, I didn't. I wasn't trying to overthrow the government. Okay, that's settled. Next question. That's not how you interview. You interview like the clip catching him at the one event from another national news source. Do you have any comment about your emails? I mean, CNN came out today trying to say that Mike Lee isn't trying to gaslight us about his emails. Again, gaslighting. He wants to be faith promoting. He learned it from the church. And so here, chapter 13, now after this terrible war, we have heirs of salvation. For number 13, huh? Chapter 14, fountains of light and hope. It's just, dear God. And this is barf material. Gag me with a spoon stuff. I'm putting Everybody Run, the Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun. That's the theme song in the description below. And you have to listen to it because it's perfect. Chapter 15, no greater reward. Chapter 16, written in heaven. Chapter 17, spared for each other, spare me. 18, any place on earth but here. Any place on earth. Chapter 19, the gospel of the master. They won't tell you that Heber J. Grant reincorporated the church in 1923. After having been shut down, Heber J. Grant is our founder. All of the other branch-offs from Brigham Young happened in 1920. And so Heber J. Grant was a little behind the times. And so in 1923, that's when he did it. So in 1921, after the apostate Korohors went and formed their own church, the Apostolic Brethren, the FLDS Church, and all those other stuff, in 1921, he redoes the Doctrine and Covenants, so to distinguish from the other branch-offs. And takes out the doctrine from the Doctrine and Covenants. It's no longer the Articles of Faith. Those other branch-offs kept John Taylor's insertions, which the United States said, no, you can't have those. We're shutting you down. You can't have those. And what's this in section 132? Oh, that was by Joseph. Joseph, yeah, we're not going to tell you that it was put in the year before Brigham Young died and that we removed Joseph Smith's monogamy chapter. That's not faith promoting. And so in 1922, that's where the Arizona woman did her thesis on the intellectuals in the church who had the secret meeting about how the church isn't true and what do we do? I know, let's lie to the Mormons about it. But Heber J. Grant was way ahead of them. Thus, in 1923, reincorporates the church as Evangelical Mormonism. Reformed Christians. I just did that video today and nobody cares. So part 3, in the heat of the battle. Chapter 20, hard times. Oh, they can relate to me so well. 21, a keener understanding. 22, eternal reward. Yeah, I'm seeing the white picket fence. No blacks allowed, but they're dark shadows. Notice that? Instead of explaining that they were purposely not allowing blacks to own homes, shadow humans entering through a white picket fence and saying eternal reward. Do you not understand what they're doing here? This is the danger of people who whitewash the church history, covering up the corruption because we don't want to look at it. We don't want to look at ourselves for being racist, sexist, bigoted, neglectful of the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted. because we might have to change. We might not be the true church after all. And so they changed Joseph Smith into a Christian who worships Jesus. Chapter 23. All that is necessary. 24. The aim of the church. Chapter 25. No time to lose. You've already lost. The game is long over. You're the only ones left standing on the court. Chapter 26. War's foul brood. Yeah, what were you guys doing in Nazi Germany, by the way? Moroni and the swastika. They will not talk about that. That's not faith promoting. But they were against communism, Travis. Yeah. But they were pro. But that's not faith promoting, Travis. Chapter 27. God is at the helm. Which God? Constantine Jesus? Reformed Constantine Jesus. Seriously? Who does not exist. And he's at the helm? They just lied to us. That's exactly how they treated the women in the church when Nelson changed the law of obedience. You no longer obey your husband, you now obey God. But who speaks for God on earth? Yeah, the prophets. And who do the prophets tell you to obey? Your husband. You got punked. And you got distracted from law of chastity, where he's bringing back polygamy, where he just had the April conference to groom little 12-year-old girls to go to the temple where polygamy is being taught to you. And that you've got to raise your right arm to the square and covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses that you will not reveal the sacred secret loyalty oath, or you'll have the death penalties reinstituted. This is the knife, remember? Those of us of the older generation, remember. Those are the majority of my audience. They know. You're supposed to kill yourself if you don't obey your husband. The woman is to blame in divorce. That's how the church prophets see it. So if your husband beats you, it's your fault because you didn't obey him. That's how they are so twisted and demented and demonic. They will only talk the talk publicly that they're the good guys. Like the whole LGBTQIAPO plus rights. They go around saying, oh yeah, we support it. We've joined forces for this bill for LGBTQ rights. And the church is right there with them. We support them. Yeah, because they got away with an insertion of religious freedom. And if you look at the law, the way it is written, it says religious freedom exempt. Again, it's all a con. So that God, chapter 28, our united efforts. The failed system of economy, where people were forced to have things. They did not own the property. That sounds a lot like communism, Brigham. Oh, we're not communist. Why, the Book of Mormon economy. Chapter 29, 'tis eventide. Ah, yeah, quote the hymn. Chapter 30, such grief. Man, the Great Depression, I'm betting. Part 4, crowned with glory. Well, if World War II No, the Great Depression was earlier than World War II. It sort of, World War II helped the economy, which is an interesting thing. The economy collapses, we go to war. The economy gets better. Less people. Purging of the population. Okay, did I say crowned with glory for part 4? 31, the right track. You know, choose the right, the whole shield thing. Yeah, that's from the KKK. Chapter 32, brothers and sisters. 33, our Father's hand. That's actually an Amy Grant song. Very nice. Our Father's hands. I think it's Amy Grant's Our Father's hands. Let's find out. Amy Grant, Our Father's hands. Father's eyes. Okay. Not his hands, it's his eyes. Chapter 34, go and see. 35, we cannot fail. You've already failed. This church has collapsed. The higher you get, the bigger the fall, the greater the fall. It fell. They're just, again, whitewashing. They cannot tell us the truth that the church has lost the majority of its members that they claim they have. We're down to about 2 or 3 million left. They don't want to tell you this. All the membership numbers were pre-COVID. They don't want to tell you the truth. They're just perpetuating the lie. Chapter 36, carefully and prayerfully. 37, with real intent. Oh, I wonder where they got that quote from. They must be plagiarizing the Book of Mormon. Oops. That was funny. It's not faith promoting to say that the Book of Mormon is plagiarized. Chapter 38, more power, more light. Chapter 39, what's now is it still the new era for the kids? Or did they get the ensign and we got Leahona? Dear God. So yeah, they have all a long list of references, but they claim it's non-fiction, that it's historically based, but they just picked and chose what to put in, leaving out what they don't want to talk about, what they don't want to explain to us, because it's not faith promoting. And the church went through that phase, and they've been caught saying it's not faith promoting, we only want faith promoting stuff. So this isn't something I'm making up, it's well known. They will not tell us the truth. Like 19 July 1840 and 17 March 1842, they will not canonize them. They no longer publish the Joseph Smith history anymore. It's the Joseph Smith Papers, but they're not going to canonize it. The Saints volumes, that's a revision. They're not going to canonize it. They're not going to canonize church history anymore. They're leaving the well-known and established lie in our canon. It's not the golden plates, it's the gold plates, as it says. So there is truth in there. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? No. That's a lie. Jesus? That's a lie. It says the personage who addressed me. It never says it's Jesus appeared to Joseph. Let alone that it's apocalyptic literature. It has nothing to do with literal history. And ex-Mormons, because they're born and raised Mormon and are upset that the church lied, leave the church upset about the lie, never finding out what the real truth is, that Joseph Smith was framed. Brigham Young purposely altered all things Joseph. And that's what's being discovered. That the changes that Heber J. Grant made are what we have been traditionally taught. And so when these scholars come around and say, oh, okay, well, Brigham Young and his followers were writing faith-promoting stuff in their journal about how Joseph Smith, married them. They were told to write it. They were kidnapped hostages. And if you want approval, journals were like Facebook back in the day. You put in only the best faith-promoting stuff. Because if you put negative stuff, people are going to find out and go, oh my goodness, Grandma was a horrible person. Had to. That's what you do when you're in bondage. And so nobody wants to read bad stuff. And thus came the tradition of only faith-promoting stuff. The big old con. And so when we hear about all these things, Joseph Smith was arrested on the 20th of March, 1826 for glass looking, his rock and a hat. I thought he didn't get possession of the Urim and Thummim until 1827 in September 22nd. What's he doing getting arrested with the Urim and Thummim? Church doesn't want to talk about that. The church doesn't want you to make the connection between Heber C. Kimball and Joseph Smith Sr. in Canandaigua, New York. Because Heber's saying one thing, Joseph Smith doesn't say anything. There's a reason. But nobody wants to know the reason. And so these books are purposely designed to distance you away from everything that's bad about the church, all the lies about the church. They don't want you to know the truth, because the truth will set you free from the great and abominable church. Prophesied in the apocalyptic literature called the Book of Mormon. Because it's not literal history. We all know this.